this morning has become one of Britain's hottest exports to America. She's won 2 Grammy Awards and sold millions of records, and her new album, What Comes Naturally, looks set to repeat that success. So welcome Sheena Easton, good morning to you.
Thanks.
It's good to see you, you're looking well.
Thanks.
Have you been enjoying yourself over here?
Yeah, it's been a real busy trip, but I've had a good time, and I got to spend 4 days with my mother. She came up to the hotel and hung out with us, so it was good.
Ah, that's good. You've picked up the twang.
I know.
The Californian.
I have the strangest accent known to mankind. And it's weird because when my mom was here, I'd be in the room with her and I would be really Scottish sounding. I think, well, my accent hasn't gone at all. And then I would do an interview and I'd hear, you know, the American influence creep back in, so it's strange.
I suppose it's
mixture.
inevitable. I mean, you have been over there quite a long time.
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years, is it as long as that?
Yeah.
But do the Americans find you very Scottish?
Very, yeah. It's strange, it depends who I'm talking to. Some people say, oh, you know, I thought you were a foreigner, you don't sound it. And other people go, God, I can't understand you, you sound so Scottish. So it really depends. I think it's what your ear's used to hearing. You know.
Do you feel more at home now over there? Or do you still feel a bit homesick?
Oh, I'm always homesick for my family, but you know, we're very close, and I call my mother all the time, and I come back actually to Britain at least twice a year just to visit. I mean, I don't come here to work as much as that, you know, I kind of sneak in and see the family and sneak out. But I've settled in there. It took a little while, but I'm very comfortable there, you know, after 10 years, and I've got a nice career there and a nice life, and I've made a very close, small group of friends there, and that kind of keeps the loneliness at bay and, you know, makes you feel comfortable, so it's nice.
Yeah. When you do come home, do you find that you see people that you've known for years, or do you find now that you've really just grown too apart from them? No,
my best friends that were in college are still my best friends. And they come over to the States once a year and we go on vacation there together. And when I come to town at least twice a year, I see them. I just saw them 2 nights ago. So we're still very close. And I think that anybody needs that continuity in your life. No matter what's going on with you, you know, your career could be doing great or doing terrible. If you don't have your friends to celebrate or somebody to call up and whine to them, you know, like, oh God, everything's just so bad. You know, I don't know where I would be, so they're really, I guess, you know, they're more important in my life than I could even describe.
You've been phenomenally successful in America, but it hasn't really been repeated over here. Is that because, as you say, that you don't put as much effort into your career over here? You've been concentrating more of it in America? I
wish it was as simple as that, because I travel constantly internationally, and I go where the work is. You know, I was raised in Bellshill in Scotland, where you were taught that if you get offered overtime in your shift, you took it, you know. I mean,
work ethic.
You go and you work. And so the actual truth for anyone that kind of just looks into it is when I moved to the States, you already couldn't get arrested coming out of a store with one of my records. I mean, people weren't buying my records. I only actually had about 2 or 3 big hits, then a couple of medium-sized hits here. And the difference is that in the States, the career took off, but it locked in and it became stable and it started to grow even more. So, you know, I'd love to come here and work. I'd love to come here and do live concerts. And, you know, I do it for about 6 or 9 months a year in the States, and I go to Japan and do it. So it'd be lovely to come here and do more work. But over the last few years, I guess people haven't responded well to my music, which is, you know, fine. You can't make people like your stuff. So I just assumed that I wasn't making records that radio wanted to play or that the public really wanted to hear.
Do you suffer a bit from what certainly Billy Connolly suffered from, in that if you leave your country, and British people are quite like this, that if you leave your country, that it's they kind of resent in a way your success, or they say, oh, you know, who does she think she is kind of idea. Have you suffered from that?
That is something that I actually disagree with. Anybody that I've ever talked to here is always really happy when you're doing well and encourages you, and so long as you don't embarrass your people and you know, you're respectful of them and you're proud of where you come from, they're proud of you. I think that attitude comes from some of the media, not all of the media. There's a lot of really good legitimate press here, but there's a certain element of the tabloid press that prints all these weird stories and goes out of the way to do that. And who's to say that that's, you know, the people's attitude? I think that does a disservice to the people, and I don't think people are that mean-spirited.
Certainly there was a little bit of that. You said you don't perform that much here, but I know that you did in Glasgow last year for the City of Culture, which went off well, and yet there was certain sections of the media that said that you had a hostile reception from the crowd.
I know, it's really
Could you clear that up
strange.
for us once and for all and tell us exactly what happened?
I had a great time there. We actually had about 3 or 4 days in Glasgow, and it was great for me because I hadn't spent that many days. I'd gone out for like a day here and there, but I hadn't had that many days there. So first of all, I had a great time in the city, and I ran around and I took pictures, you know, like there's the shop that I used to live above, you know, the fish and chip shop, and I took my band around and showed them the sights and stuff. Then we did the show, and before we went on, it was a kind of, I mean, the crowd was pretty rowdy anyway because they were having a great time. They'd been there, you know, having a ball all day, so we were going like, you know, it's like playing to any large festival. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of people throwing things back and forward. So we went on thinking this is going to be, you know, possibly a little bit tricky on stage. And so to me, when I was out there, there was some of the audience that were, you know, yelling to each other and singing and having a good time, and some that were getting a bit rowdy, and some that were just down the front kind of gazing up and you know, swaying back and forth. It's like a normal big festival crowd.
Right.
But then, you know, I went home and a couple of people said, God, what happened when you were performing in Glasgow? So it was definitely a media thing, you know. It wasn't something that we felt on stage.
Right. Well, we've talked, shall we have a look at the new single?
Okay, sure.
Let's have a look at Sheena's latest video. It's called What Comes Naturally.
I've been holding back my love for such a long time. Nobody's come along that I would want to call mine. My phone's been ringing, but my heart it just won't answer. I can't pretend 'cause it's love I'm after. I was not prepared for what I saw in your eyes. I saw something I've been waiting for a long time. We just met, but I know that you're no stranger. I can tell that my heart's in danger. I've been looking for you, you've been looking for me. Let's get together and do what comes naturally. There's a time to be wild, there's a time to be free. Let's get together and do what comes naturally. I could play hard to get, but what good would that do me? You'd look into my eyes and you would see right through me. This is a powerful feeling that we're feeling. I can't deny it's my heart you're stealing. I want to tell you now that I am not afraid. I let the walls come down. Tonight I'm feeling brave. The risk is worth any chance that I'm taking. 'Cause this could turn out to be love we're making. I've been looking for you, you've been looking for me. Let's get together and do what comes naturally. There's a time to be wild, there's a time to be free. Let's get together and do what comes naturally. I've been looking, you've been looking for me.
More chat with our music guest this morning, who's just released her latest album and single of the same name, What Comes Naturally. And Sheena Easton is without doubt one of the biggest pop stars that Britain's produced in recent years. But even Sheena had to start somewhere. She knows what's coming up. Let's take a look at her auditioning on the big time many moons ago.
So many nights I sit by my window waiting for someone to sing me his song. So many dreams I kept deep inside me, alone in the dark. Now you've come along. I got the music in me, I got the music in me, I got the music in me.
I'm just grateful you didn't show me singing feelings.
What would you have done?
Felines, nothing more than felines.
You wouldn't have walked out, would you?
No.
Oh, we like to check that nowadays on this programme. By any standards, your story is quite extraordinary. One of 6 children, born in Bells Hill, brought up in Bells Hill, near Glasgow. You've progressed to become what one magazine has described, is it the 9th richest woman in America?
Yeah.
Or is that rude? I don't know. Is that?
It's totally false. I mean, it's where does that come
What, you're the
from?
8th?
Well, I think I'm maybe only the 6th or something. No, but it's really it's one of those things where that was printed and then somebody else quoted that, and it only takes half a brain to figure it out. I mean, am I bigger than Madonna? I don't think so.
Well, let's not worry about
and
where you
Madonna
are.
doesn't have that. You know what I'm saying? So
Sure.
it's like very bizarre.
But let's not worry about whether you're 9th, 99th or 299th. You're well off, yeah?
Oh yeah, very
Right.
comfortable.
Okay. Now, we said it's extraordinary. What do you feel that it's that you're extraordinary, or that you happen to be in the right place at the right time, and that your story could have happened to other people?
I think that certainly the big time was the most extraordinary thing that has ever happened to me, and without having the big time happen, I wouldn't have had that career happen so early.
We should remind people about the big time, those that didn't see it. It was a kind of, you were plucked from relative obscurity.
Total obscurity.
And given the chance for, well, you explain.
Well, I was a drama student at the time, singing in bands at night, and I got the opportunity to do a television documentary which was produced by Esther Ranson called The Big Time, about the making of a pop single. So of course the cameras followed me around for a year, and when it was shown on television, my first 2 singles ended up being in the top 10. So it really gave me, first of all, the opportunity to make a record, and secondly, the attention that every new artist needs, you know, to get you kind of picked out from the hundreds trying to release songs that month. So, I mean, I definitely would not have had that instant success without that show.
What kind of girl were you when the audition started? Were you blazing with ambition? Or were you just
Absolutely.
in a complete daze? What?
No, I wouldn't have gone to the audition in the first place if I hadn't been blazing with ambition, if you think about it. I was already at drama school. I'd already, been singing for 3 years in bands. I'd already auditioned for Annie and Evita for equity roles when I wasn't in equity, just because I wanted, I'll try anything. And so you don't become successful by accident. You have to have luck and timing, but more than that, you need, especially in this business, the best producers, the best writers, a record company that believes in you and really pushes for you, and you also have to have a certain amount of talent and a lot of determination and be prepared to work hard. But I mean, there's a lot of people on your team that make hit records.
Luck can only take you so far. We'll chat much more later on, Sheena. Thanks for the moment.
So welcome back. Sheena Easton is with us this morning. Good morning to you again.
Morning.
Now, we embarrassed you horribly by showing The Big Time earlier on. Many apologies for that. But did you find, when you were doing that, it was in a way, it was kind of you being manipulated kind of idea and how to, making a single and all that. But now you're very much in control of your own career. How did you manage that? When did that all start? Was that initially when you went to America?
I'd say that any new business that you start in, there's a lot of stuff you don't have a clue about. And when I went into the studio, I have to give every credit for my producer then, Christopher Neal, who taught me so much so quickly and how to survive and how to just cope with the new singing techniques and how to deal with the stress of making records. So I learned from him, and I took that with me to the States when I started to record there. And even in the business aspects, making deals and all of that, you learn from all the good people you're surrounded by.
Are you right in there making those deals?
Absolutely. I started, once I took an interest in it, then I got very interested in it and realized that you have to, it's about taking responsibility. I mean, I can take the control thing to the extremes, I get too obsessive with it and have to remind myself to lay back a little, but when I first started to take an interest, it was all about being responsible and being an adult finally, and not passing the blame off on other people and saying, you made a bad decision. I figured, well, it's going to reflect on me, so I've got to make my own choices.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you did a bit of acting as well, did Miami Vice. Is that something that you want to do more of?
Yes,
Did
I
you
do.
get offered more parts after
Yeah,
that?
well, I think, most people in my position do get offered parts just because you have some sort of name value. It just happens anyway. But
Is it the same kind of roles that you were offered though? Because I know you played a singer in that.
Yeah.
Do you tend to get offered roles where you're a singer in it?
No, that part was yeah, she was a singer, but the episodes I did, it was kind of like beside the point.
Yeah.
I was playing his wife, and it didn't matter if I was a singer, really. The roles I get offered, though, some of them are really stupid,
Right.
And some of them are pretty good, and every part ranging from a doctor to a teacher to, you know, I mean, all sorts of things, attorneys, things like that, and singers. But the problem is I tour all of the time in the States, and I never have time to commit to an acting project. So this year, I'm planning on, after 10 years of doing 6 months of touring every year, I want to reduce that to maybe just 2 or 3 and find some time and do some more acting before I make the next album.
We read over here that one of your records caused a furore in the South and was actually banned at some stage. What was behind that?
No, it wasn't actually. It's the record that you're talking about is Sugar Walls,
Yes.
which actually was a hit. It came and, you know, it went up, I think it was like top 3, and then it went out of the charts. And a couple of months, about a month after it was out of the charts, the PMRC came out. That's the parents. This